Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about something that's kind of hard for me to discuss. It's how mental illness affected me as a parent. And I'm just going to kind of give you guys a background and, and then I'm going to go from there. Um, basically, this is going to be hard for me, so I'm going to try not to be too distant, but it might be too much information for other people, so yeah, just a heads up. When I was 15, I had my daughter. Um, I uh, Shortly after I had her, we were living with my mother, her boyfriend, and my brother, and we were staying with a woman who had a severe alcohol problem, and the environment was chaotic. It was a really, really bad situation, to put it lightly. There was a lot happening there that was I don't even know how to word what was going on there. It was just not good. And I was trying to parent an infant, and it was really hard to do in that kind of environment. But I was doing the best I could. I was doing everyday mother stuff, I was a good mom, and I tried to keep her away from all of that. And we were in my room most of the time, and we really had no social life. Or we didn't. When I say we, I meant I didn't have a social life, because I really didn't want anybody around her, and I didn't want anybody around my environment. And also, I was having a lot of psychosis. I think if you look at my previous video, I had agoraphobia, so that's partly why there wasn't that many people around, and I had OCD. And now that I'm older, I can look back at that and see why I was having OCD was because I was trying to control the situation I was in, and I was trying to parent an infant, and I couldn't. I felt like I had no control over anything that was going on, that I could not protect her. I could not keep her safe, and um, I was trying to give her a good environment, and I just felt like I wasn't able to fully do it. So I was 15, and so I started washing my hands, so much so that they bled, and I started washing doorknobs and handles and pretty much anything that you would hold with your hand or use your hand to open or close or hold. I would just basically wash, and I did that. And at that time, I was also going to a teen parenting program, and that was like my sanctuary. That was like my church, That was the only place I could go to and feel safe and sane and know that my daughter was okay in the daycare down the hall. Anyway, I was doing all that, and I was going to teen parenting, and the living environment was it was crazy. And we ended up leaving that environment, and getting I believe we ended up with my mom and her boyfriend again, uh, and my brother. But we lived in a lot of different apartments. We were moving around a lot because, again, it was a chaotic living situation. There was a lot of money issues and some other issues. My mom and her boyfriend also her ex-boyfriend had mental health problems, and so there was a lot of chaotic being homeless, sometimes moving around, living in motels. We didn't really do that when my daughter was around, but we did that before my daughter was born. And after she was born, we did move around a lot into different apartments and stuff. And over time, as I was trying to care for my daughter and, whatnot, I started to realize this is kind of what things are going to be like. I don't know how I can provide for her properly, because we were moving around so much, and there was so much going on, people coming in and out of the apartments. And I kind of honestly, I shut down. I became I kind of gave up at that point. And I don't mean I gave up on her. I gave up on the hope that, things that I would ever have control over what was going on in my life or my daughter's life. So I started to drink, and I started to go out more. And I wasn't an alcoholic at that point, but I was drinking. I was maybe, I could say I was probably a binger. And, um, but then I would, I'd come home, and I'd still take care of her. And that's not good. I'm not saying that's good. I was out of it, and I was pissed off at my living situation. And I was pissed off that I couldn't properly care for her. And I felt like there was nothing I could do. And I was having, a lot of anger about that. And I ended up getting pregnant again because I was being irresponsible, and I was avoiding my own issues. And I got pregnant, and again, and during that pregnancy, I started having more psychosis and paranoid delusions. I was worried about my daughter's future. I was worried about my son's future. And I was having obsessive compulsive delusions pretty much. And I had them after my son was born too. And when he was, when I was pregnant, I decided that basically I was going to give him up for adoption when he was born, because I was really horrified that, he would end up having the same problems, and having to deal with the same things my daughter was. And also at the same time, I wish I would have done something for my daughter. I wish I could have, given her up for adoption when she was born, because I felt that, she wouldn't have had to go through all of that. And so I gave him up for adoption. And after, during the pregnancy with him, and after the pregnancy, I had a lot of psychosis. I had a lot of delusions and paranoia, and it was just, it was really up and down with my emotions as well. And my daughter had to be around that, and that had to be really scary for, an infant, and someone who's, up till about 2, probably, she was around that, even though I tried to care for her. um, that's got to be kind of scary and sporadic for an infant. And I knew that she needed structure. I knew that. And that's the thing. I did try to provide it for her, but it just felt out of control no matter what. Like, no matter what I did, I felt like I could never provide that structure for her. But I was still trying, And so anyway, after I had my son, we ended up finally, because this whole time I was from 15 to 18, I was basically, living with my mother and her boyfriend. And that's part of what my problem was. I thought I couldn't change things. And finally I got a place to live, and of my own, and it was just me and my daughter. And, my mom and her boyfriend would come to visit. And then, things were they were calmer. There wasn't as much chaos. I still, I was still having avoidance issues, but it wasn't anywhere near like it was before I got this place. Anyway, I get this place, and my mom's boyfriend abuses my daughter. And I find out, my daughter tells me, I find out, and I drop the apartment. I leave it instantly, and I go to a woman's shelter to make sure that my daughter is safe. And we go from there. And I basically, got her away from that. And then, I'm trying to think more about the psychosis I experienced and stuff while I'm talking to you too, not just about my situation. But after we ended up in the women's shelter, of course, my daughter, she started having emotional problems too. And I didn't know how to handle that, because I felt horrible about it. And I didn't know how to help her. And I tried, but she still, she had emotional problems too, which is, understandable after something like that. And I just, it it was hard for both of us. And I ended up getting another apartment with her. It was like there was the women's shelter, but then they had this apartment complex for people who had been through situations like I had been through. And so I moved in there with her. And this whole time, I had started taking medication after I had my son because of my psychosis and my delusions. I started taking Risperdal, or Risperidol, or however you want to say it. And I had been on it, and I was in an extreme depressed state at this time. I was also on Risperdal, so I was basically a I wouldn't, I was just, I didn't move around very much. I didn't clean very much. You know, I cooked and stuff, and I tried to do my best to care for her, but I mean, I was literally not even seeing color. That's how depressed I was and how much the medication was messing me up. I couldn't care for her because I was doped up and depressed. And when I say doped up, I mean somebody prescribed a piece of shit medication to me that made me a freaking zombie. So much so that my child got, I mean, I'm not blaming it on this, but so much so that my child got taken away from me. Okay? That's what I'm saying. I was on this medication. She was having emotional outbursts. I was taking her to therapy. I was trying to get her help. And the whole time I was having an emotional breakdown too. And I couldn't properly help her, even though I tried. And I called some people about how to help her, and they took her from me because they decided that, you know, I wasn't fit to parent. And in a way I wasn't. Okay? Because of my emotional problems and medications. I know that. I understand that. But also looking back at it, I question why these people couldn't have helped me more. You know, helped me find other medications, spoke with me about, you know, how to work through my depression. You know, I was going to therapy and stuff, but there was no, I don't know how to explain it. There was no plan here. There was no way for me to find hope in any of this. It was just kind of like panic, 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 panic the whole time. Or depression, 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 depression. I mean, I shit you not, you guys. Like I said, I was seeing black and white. There was no color. There was no color in my day. I was just waiting to die. Like, I didn't even want to get up out of the couch, and I was trying to do my best. I still got up. I don't know how I did it, but I still got up, and I would clean occasionally. And, you know, my daughter had to be around that. And that's horrible, especially, you know, with her emotional state that she was in, too, with what had happened to her. You know, I was trying to help her, and I mean, I was taking her to therapy. I was even giving her medication, and that was a whole nother thing. I mean, it was just, it was, you know, it was hard. And I tried to call these people and ask for help, and they took her from me. So I guess what I'm getting at in this whole video is, you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't be a parent if you're mentally ill, but I'm saying that if you are going to be a parent when you're mentally ill, you need to try your freaking, you need to really work on your shit before you try to have kids, or you need to definitely find proper medication, therapy, programs, all that stuff. It needs to be in play before you have a kid. I'm not saying you should have a kid either, because it's the hardest thing ever to be a parent and be mentally ill. It's already hard being a parent, but to be mentally ill and be a parent is, it's almost impossible. And I'm not saying it is impossible, but it's almost damn near impossible to be a good parent. Definitely be a good parent when you are mentally ill. Okay? You can try your hardest, but I mean, yeah, it's going to definitely affect a lot of things. And I want that to be a reality to people who are out there, you know, who have mental illness. And I'm not saying you can't have kids and take care of them and be a great parent. There's all kinds of, there's people, there's all people who have bipolar who are great parents, people who have, you know, I mean, so I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you're going to do this, you have to make sure that you know what you're getting into. And you might not know that when you're mentally ill. So I'm just saying, and also I feel that people who are mentally ill definitely need to have better resources for getting help and figuring out what kind of medication they need if they are taking medication. Because that was definitely a problem for me. I mean, when you call and ask for help and then somebody just kind of screws you over, that's not right. So I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at is, you know, evaluate the whole situation before you try to, you know, I mean, anybody should do that anyway, but, you know, it's really hard to be a parent, and it's really hard to be mentally ill. So just look at that. That's all I'm saying. And, you know, anybody out there who's, you know, you know, a worker, or, you know, I'm just saying that basically there needs to be better programs out there is what I'm getting at. Better programs and more options for people who are mentally ill, who have children, or who want to have children, is what I'm saying. Yeah. And yeah, I just, yeah, really, like, honestly. Anyway, thanks for listening. That's kind of what I've experienced. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who have had different experiences as being mentally ill and being a parent. And I really hope there's a lot better experiences out there than mine. You know, I hope that there's hope out there, and that there's other people who, you know, there's people out there who can be good parents. It's just really hard. Anyway, thanks for listening. I don't know if I got my point across, but, you know, at least my story's out there. And yeah, anyway, thanks for listening.